Welcome to the World's Philosophy and Religion podcast with Dr. Marc Gafni. In today's episode, we are talking about time, past, present, future. So many of us spend way too much of our days focused on what happened in the past, either regretting or wishing we could go back to a certain moment. Or we find ourselves stuck in imaginations of what is yet to come, either because we have big goals and visions we would like to get to, or because we're anxious about what may be coming upon us. And in response to this very future and past-oriented culture, we've had this great movement towards being in the present moment. However, when we're doing these spiritual practices of being only here now, we often forget about the entire lineage that made our lives possible and the entire future that we now have responsibility for. So in today's episode, Dr. Marc Gafni is going to clarify and deepen our understanding and relationship to time so that you can know how to be fully grounded and here now while still remaining in touch with everything in the past and everything yet to come, and how we can actually tune in to a more beautiful vision for the future and help us go back to repair the destruction, pain, devastation of the past so that we can move humanity forward. So without further ado, I hope you enjoy this episode of the World Philosophy and Religion podcast with Dr. Marc Gafni.
I just want to set the context. And so I'm going to just get like crazy serious for a second. Friends, people are dying. People are always dying around the world, right? So first off, people are always dying. The world is filled with unbearable joy, just billions of acts of kindness and joy and delight and aliveness and eyes twinkling and gestures of kindness and depth and growth. The world is a stunningly beautiful place. And the world is filled with unbearable suffering and unjust suffering and pain, right? And broken bodies and bodies blown apart in every second. You know, and we focus on where we want to focus, and why we focus where we focus is important, right? And we should focus on all pain. No blood is redder than any other blood. One of the great tragedies of the last period of time has been the Sudan, right? Tens and tens and tens of thousands of people slaughtered, right? It's been Christians, right, slaughtered in Africa, right? It's been Muslims, slaughtered, right, in the Sudan, right? It's been, the utter tragedies, right, that have happened in the Ukraine beyond imagination. These are the ones that are, I'm not talking about the ones that are talked about. Those are all mentioned already. At the Ukraine, we've kind of turned away from the Ukraine. Lane and I wrote quickly a book about the Ukraine. The Ukraine's happening all the time now, right? Desperation. And now, Iran, right? Iran. People are being literally killed as we talk right now in Iran, right? And this very second, just unimaginable amount of protesters and an unimaginable defiance and an unimaginable bravery, right? That's sweeping through Iran. People going into the streets, right? People going into the streets, right? Like wow. It's like, what does that mean? What does that mean? And so the way that we join, the way that we feel this right here in One Mountain, and there's many possible responses, and they're all important. We need activism, and we need funding, and we need resourcing, and we need protests. So all of that matters enormously, and all of it should be done by the people who should do it, and it's wildly important. And I am utterly convinced that the only thing ultimately that's going to make a difference, that's going to shift things in the course of time, that's going to move time itself, is going to be a new emergence, something new that emerges in this time between stories, in this time between values. Does everyone get that? So we're in a particular quality of time now. That's going to be our topic today, time. We're in a particular quality of time now. Okay, so here we begin. Does everyone get that? So when we say it's a time between stories and a time between worlds, what we mean is that we're in a particular quality of time. This is the time of the space in between, but that is a particular quality of time. And this week and next week, I want to talk about listening to the quality of time in my life, right? The word time literally means in the original Hebrew invitation. Time is an invitation, zman, Z-E-M-A-N, right? Zman means to be attuned. Time literally means in the original Hebrew to be attuned to the invitation, but it's not only an invitation. Time's not only an invitation, right? Time is not only an invitation, it is a demand. There's a demand in time. We're witnessed in time. There's a demand in time. There's this quality of time that invites. Bergson called it duration. Duration is this deep quality of time, and I want to talk about it more next week. But we enter into time and we feel its invitation, but not only its invitation, it's demand. It's not quite liminal time, right? But liminal time can be value neutral. Liminal time is Victor Turner's description of the space between. You're absolutely right. But for Turner, it's not necessarily lined with value, right? It could be a materialist kind of technical, mechanical time in between. Does that make sense? It's deeper, right? The time in between has a quality. So the space between the cherubs above the ark and the Holy of Holies of the temple in Jerusalem, that space between the cherubs is the space that's called Bein HaKruvim. It's a space between. And that space between is Bein. Bein, B-E-I-N. Bein means between, and Bein is also Binah. And Binah is profound intuition. And Binah is also understood as Shekhinah Ila'ah. It's the higher goddess. It's the higher Shekhinah. It's the higher face of she. It's the higher will. And it is the Shekhinah, the goddess or she, the field of value in her personal form, right, who's called Shekhinah, who's called Binah, B-I-N-A. Maybe you'll be writing somebody in the chat box, Binah. And Binah is this intuitive Shekhinah, feminine understanding that is in this time in between that wants to birth something new. Something that wants to be born. So about Binah, about this quality of Binah, we say, Em habanim smecha. The mother of the children is filled with joy because she's birthing something in the time in between. So the time in between is a time when something wants to be born. It's not just liminal time, although things can be born in liminal time, but they don't need to be. Liminal time can also be a blank slate, as it were. And in the deist sense. No. The time is pregnant. It's pregnant, right? It yearns to birth. There's something that needs to come forward. So in this time in between stories and time between values, this time between stories and time between worlds, which is a time between old theories of value and value that seems to have broken down. In this time in between, we need to actually tell a new story of value. And that needs to be a new story of value that actually embraces the depth of Islam in its most rarefied and beautiful and sacred forms. And it needs to embrace the depth of the Christian and the depth of the indigenous and the depth of the Sunnis and the Shiites and the depth of the intuitions of the atheists who rejected, right, stories of religion for good reasons and the best of, right, the best of the whole, the best of the Taoists and the best of the Confucians and the best of the secular humanists and their intuitions of heresy, which were really faith in disguise. Do you begin to get that? Do we get into that, everybody? This is big. This is huge, right? In other words, you get that, right? In other words, this is the moment we have to tell a new story of value. The world has never survived, right, without a story of value in each individual part of the world. And we stumbled through with stories of value that were limited, that were ethnocentric, that were in certain ways beautiful and stunning and refined, in other ways rapacious and decadent, right, and degraded. But now we're one world and we're one breath and we're one love. There is no split. There's no local in the world. There's only one world. There's only one globe. And pretty soon there's only going to be one galaxy. But for now, let's talk about one globe. And so we need a story which is a shared story of value as a context for our diversity. That's what we need to do. But we're doing it not as a cute project. It's not, there's some think tank called the Center for World Philosophy and Religion that created a collective pseudonym called David J. Temple because we've got this nice intellectual project. No, we are desperate. We are the mother. We are Binah. We are the illumination of the tree of life, which is called Binah, which is called the Shekhinah, which is the mother desperate to birth the new story of value. And if you don't feel desperate, right? I've never given birth, but I've been at 4 births, right? And held the hand of desperate, right? Of the desperate woman giving birth, right? And I felt desperation in other arenas of my life, utter desperation. If you don't feel utterly desperate to birth this new story of value, if you don't feel the utter urgency, the painful, agonizing, and yet ecstatic urgency of the artist who paints for the sake of the all. You know, there's a drunk, we said once, who drinks just for his own pain. And there's another drunk who drinks for the pain of a city. And there's a third drunk who drinks for the pain of his country. But the real drunk drinks for the pain of the world. And the holy drunkard drinks for the pain of the world. So there's an artist who paints just for their own travail, their own angst. But there's a bigger artist, a deeper artist, who paints a new canvas for the sake of their whole family and perhaps even their whole country. And then there's a third and a fourth artist who paints for the world, who paints for the cosmos. We have to enter into the canvas itself and paint a new painting, a new story of value in this time between worlds. And with this new story, desperately wants to be born. And we have to do it all the fucking way. All the way. Full on. Full effort, full commitment, full devotion, full sacrifice. Right? That is the only way to do it. Right? And we have to go into the square. Right? And we got to hold hands with a protester, right? A woman who's willing to light her cigarette and burn, right, an effigy, right, a picture of Khomeini on full camera, knowing that her picture's being taken, knowing that she's directly placing her life in danger, and that picture, right, flew through Iran. And we have to hold her hand. And I don't know if she's alive today. We have to have that same sense of taking our unique risk. Now, you know, Mashhad was burning yesterday. I have many, many close friends who are Mashhadis. And I was close to some key, wonderful people in the Mashhadi community in Kew Gardens in New York back in the day. And I used to pray at the Mashhadi synagogue. Right, there's Mashhadis and Tehranis, and there's 2 different communities. Right, Iran is a holy community. I went out, right, for a period of time, you know, very closely. I was someone I almost married with an Iranian woman. I'm like, People are saying, oh, that's something I didn't know. Hey, you know, can't share everything, right? But Iran's unimaginably important. The Iranian people are unimaginably beautiful. And they are blood on the ground now, right? And the way that we're joining them is that we're not doing a clever intellectual project here. We are going all the way in this lifetime. We're willing to go and we're ready to go. And I'd be so happy, you know, when my friend Barbara Marx Hubbard would call me and say, Mark, and it was pretty much every day, Mark, are you ready to go with me all the way in this lifetime? I'd say, yes, Barbara, let's go all the way in this lifetime. It means we're going to go all the way. We're going to do everything we can to create a new story of value, and we can. And we have a capacity, right, in this unique Center for World Philosophy and Religion that's unimaginable. Right, we've gathered together. We've come together in this David J. Temple place. Unique stars, unique instruments, the unique self-symphony, right? And we can actually tell this new story of value and we can deliver it into culture. But we've got to go all the way. So I started working yesterday at God knows what time, right? I was up very late the night before, so I slept a bunch of hours, tried to sleep 8 hours because of the flu. I sat at my desk at somewhere around 10:30 in the morning. I left my desk at 4 a.m. And I was trying to work through one detail of the Dharma, which I didn't understand. And I read text after text, and then I meditated, and I thought more, and then I kind of entered into this place and that door. Now it's just beginning to come together, right? So I can clarify it. It's not there yet, because that's what we have to do. But I'm not looking to write abstract philosophy, right? To be published in some academic journal or some, you know, New Age declaration, right? Which lacks depth and authority and integrity. No, we have to write precisely in that space in between. We have to write from that space in between into that particular sweet spot that can enter the depth of culture and change the whole thing, right? And change the whole thing. That's what we have to do all the way in this lifetime. Every detail. Wow. That's what we're here to do. David, give us a code.
And that's why we're here at One Mountain, because it animates us, right? We actually get reattuned to this evolutionary God, this evolutionary arc. So here we go with evolutionary love code. The evolutionary God is the possibility of possibility. Evolutionary integrity is faithful to the memory of the future, even as it is faithful to the memory of the past, always living in the infinite eternity of the present, which contains all past and all future in its transformative crucible. The evolutionary God is the possibility of possibility. Evolutionary integrity is faithful to the memory of the future, even as it is faithful to the memory of the past, always living in the infinite eternity of the present, which contains all the past and all the future in its transformative crucible. And I turn my word back to you, Dr. Marc.
David, thank you so much. Wow. So here we go. There's a move in psychology which talks about the traumas of yesterday. And it's a very, very important move. And it's a very creative move. That psychology comes at a certain moment and says, Breuer, Freud, Vienna, and says, actually, we need to go into the past to realize we got hurt in the past. We got traumatized in the past. We got violated in the past. Or, more simply, as attachment theory continued in this vein, 75 years later, or we somehow weren't held, or there was a fundamental lack of attunement, or we were in some sense separated from the physical mother, the caretaker, the separation from the mother, right? Or we were misaligned in some fundamental way with the holding, right, of the mother, right? We were somehow anxiously attached or avoidantly attached. So attachment theory kind of, right, moves in this general current, right? Or, right, there's an entire school that talks about the profound trauma of the past, and we become trauma informed. And all of this has value. All of this is not unimportant. All of this is a momentous leap forward. We actually begin to recover the memory of the past. We realize the memory of the past lives in the future. And we realize that there's both personal trauma, and as Eli talked about in the beginning of his rap, there's both personal trauma and there's collective trauma. And we realize that in some profound sense, if we don't collect the past, if we don't recollect the past, if we don't recollect the memories of the past, if we don't actually engage the trauma, if we split off the trauma, if we split off the pain, if we split off the attachment disorder, then it hijacks our life. So in recovering the memory of the past, there's the sense that I move towards a wholeness. There's the sense that the past has this unimaginably important key, which if I go in and find it and then relive it in a new way, I go into the past, I find the trauma, and I relive the trauma in a new way, then I actually change something in my present, and I change something in my future. And even in some sense, right, I liberate something in the past. Now, this is an unimaginably important idea. And this is part one this week. We're going to do part two next week. But it's an unimaginably important idea. It's not the whole story. And of course, this idea has two weaknesses. One, it's often materialist. So in other words, this is often therapy met postmodernism, and therapy became a variety of flatland discourse. And so separation from the mother began to be limited to the physical mother. Separation from the mother perhaps was extended even to Mother Earth by the environmentalists. It was extended there. but primarily it's separation from the physical mother, and there's not a larger sense of separation from the field of value. Separation from the field of Eros value, separation from the mother that Ramakrishna talked about when Ramakrishna would get up in the morning and scream, "Mother! Mother! Mother!" So we lost access to that mother. We put everything on the biological mother or the caretaker or the cultural mother or the social mother. And then we focused on the trauma of lack of attunement or alignment with that mother. We called it attachment disorder. And in that we liberated much. We paid attention, right, to this dimension of the human being that had not gotten attention. We placed our attention. Eros is the placing of attention. We placed our Eros attention on that dimension. We healed something important. And yet it was weak. It was weak because it was often flatland. It was often materialist, reductive materialist, number one. Number two, we ignored something in the depth of the present. We didn't understand that the present was more than a junction between the past and the future. We didn't understand how to enter the present, number one. And two, we looked at the future merely as something that was not yet here. We misunderstood, right? We missed, right? We were unable to catch the echo of the whisperings of the future. We placed all our energy on the memories of the past, and we forgot that there's a present that invites us to depth, and we're going to talk about the present, and we forgot that there are memories of the future. We forgot that there are memories of the future. And so we focused our attention on the memories of the past, A, but two, in a reductive, materialistic way, and three, in a way that dissociated the past from the present, the depth of the present, what I might call the eternal now that lives in the present, which we'll talk about. And we also forgot that there's actually a future that's calling us. We lost connection to the future. We lost access to the future. We lost the memory of our future, and we lost the memory of the memory of our future, meaning we didn't just forget that we had a memory of the future that was calling us. We forgot that we forgot. So the future no longer had a way of finding us. So we were left with our own set of, personal traumatic memories of the past, which were understood in fundamentally materialist terms. Right? The mother, the physical mother, again, was dissociated from the larger field of the mother, which is the field of value. Both in terms of our personal memory and our collective memory. Wow. Does everyone get that? And let me just add one more thing. We understood line. We understood time as being linear. Time's a line, the straight line. But if time's a straight line, then there's no way out. Right? In other words, we can go back and we can recover those memories, but we can't change them. I mean, we can do psychological exercises. We can hold our inner child. We can have a conversation with the 5-year-old who was humiliated. And these are, psychological tricks of various kinds, but in a reductive materialistic world in which there's a linear line of time, in which time is conceived as a straight line of points in a line, time is, if you will, spatialized. That's what Bergson writes about when he writes his book on free will and duration, which I spent a lot of time with over the last 36 hours. Time is spatialized. We understand time as kind of a form of space, right? It moves in a straight line. So if time's a linear line, right, then we're stuck with this unimaginable burden, with this separation from the mother, but this very limited mother, and there's not much we can do about it, right? Because ultimately we can do exercises, but the time has passed. The ship has sailed, right? So we can do some kind of limited healing, but not that much more. And it's even deeper than that. It's even deeper than that. Let me deepen the question. Right? There's also a deeper problem with linear time. Linear time is this guarantee of absolute shame. And it's absolute shame because everybody makes mistakes. right? As Jesus said, that brilliant answer of Jesus, let he who has no sin cast the first stone. If you look at the context, that was a brilliant answer to a complex question, right? So there's no one who has no sin. There's no tzaddik, there's no righteous one, says Solomon, the great king who doesn't sin. Everyone falls. Everyone, right, collapses at some point. Everyone has a moment in which there's a gap between their professed value and their lived value. Everyone has something in which the sacred voice of shame, not the shame that's the source of all evil, not the shame that says I'm broken and can never be fixed, but the sacred voice of shame which says you didn't do it. You weren't who you needed to be, right? So everyone has a place they break down. But if times align and I've made those mistakes and that point in the line has passed, there's nothing I can do about it. There's no way back. And so, that's a big deal. That's a big deal, right? Linear time seems insufficient, right, in order to actually take us home in a fundamental way. Linear time leaves us profoundly drenched in shame, right? It's this understanding of time as spatial and linear. So these are the two problems we have. We have kind of this dominance of the past, this reductive materialist dominance of the past, in which case we're not just trauma informed, we're trauma dominated by a past that we can't escape and we have no way of fixing and healing. And we're shame dominated, right, by our own mistakes, not the traumas that happened to us, but our own mistakes. So the first is the traumas, right, that happened to us, right, the attachment disorders of various kinds, right, perhaps the abuses of various kinds, right, the hurts that happened to us. And then there's our own mistakes. And neither of those are escapable, right? So the past, whether it's through trauma imposed on us or our own self-traumatizing, right, our own self-imposed wounds through our own collapses, there's no escape from either of those. So the past utterly dominates. Does everyone get that? It's like, Does everyone get it? That is where we live right now. That's the nature of where we live. And so we need to go deeper.
If you enjoy deep dive teachings like this with Dr. Marc Gafni, then I have a fantastic opportunity for you. Coming up on January 25th, 2026, we have our next live online course with Dr. Marc Gafni. This course is about the 3 stations of transformation, from pre-tragic to tragic to post-tragic. Once you understand these 3 stations, you can literally consciously evolve every aspect of your life. So the pre-tragic part of this framework is when you are in life and things feel clear. So for example, in a relationship, when you first kind of start crushing on someone and falling in love, everything is clear and it feels so beautiful and your heart is just open and excited. However, there always comes the tragic station. This is when, for example, in a relationship, you start to see differences in each other, or maybe you realize, oh, I don't like when the person does this, or you understand that people have complex histories and complexities about their own character, and suddenly things become unclear. You start to question, is this actually love? Does this feel right for me? Is this something that I want to keep building on? And most people in every aspect of their lives keep going back and forth between these 2 stations. Everything is clear and they feel good, then things get complex and they don't know what to do, so they either run away and try to find this pre-tragic clarity on life again, or they just remain in this tragic state where they don't know how to move beyond it. However, by studying with Dr. Marc Gafni, you will learn to unlock the post-tragic station. This is when you can actually move through the tragedy, understand how to perceive and work with complexity in every area of your life, and come to a deeper clarity that's more mature. It emerges from a space of understanding and accepting and working with the complexities of life and being able to navigate those. So if you learn this one framework, these 3 stations from pre-tragic to tragic to post-tragic, you can apply them across any aspect of your life, from relationships to your relationship to God, to your relationship to work, to your relationship to yourself. This is the key to consciously evolve in any area of your life. And in this course, Dr. Marc Gafni will teach the 3 different stations and then give examples throughout 10 major aspects of every individual's life. So if you would like to learn that sort of depth and become the person who can go beyond the tragic into the post-tragic, then come join this course. There are 2 ways that you can sign up. You can either join it as a one-time purchase, which is slightly more expensive through our partners at Parallax, or you can join our online community and save a lot of money. So our online community has quarterly live courses with Dr. Marc Gafni and so much more. You will get over 10 on-demand self-study courses that you can watch at any time. There's a bi-weekly book club. There's monthly speed friending events. There's exclusive access to dialogues with Dr. Marc Gafni and other amazing thinkers. And there's daily prayer practice and chant practice. There's so much amazing stuff going on in the community, and you'll get to save a bunch of money and enjoy this course. So I encourage you to go check out this course and join the online community, which is called Who We Must Become. You can find the details to this course in the description below the video. Sign up now because we're starting on January 25th. Enjoy the rest of this episode.
And I want to begin today the going deeper. So 1, when we talk about story, we say that in story, action has effect. That's the first element of the 10 elements of story in cosmologic humanism that we're now working on the final formulations of. Action has effect. That's the first element of story. 2, right? Action has effect in the context, too, of a direction, right? And there's a direction. A story has direction. That's unimaginably important. A story has direction. The line of story matters. The line of story is not just a problem. The line of story matters. The line of story is important. Why does it matter so much? The line of time matters because linear time means that there's dignity to our decisions, that our decisions matter, right? That we're not just in a myth of eternal return, as Eliade described it. We're not just looping. We're actually going somewhere, right? That's the second element of story. There's a plot line. And a plot line means where there's a storyline, there's a plot line, we're going somewhere, there's direction. And direction, the third element of story, right? This direction, this plot line is animated by desire. The third element of story. And the fourth element of story is desire is always a desire for value. And the fifth element of story is a desire not just for value, but for ever greater, ever deeper value. Let's just hold there for a second. So that means that every story has a plot line. The plot line desires value, ever deeper and more value. So that plot line introduces something new. What does it introduce? It introduces telos. Telos. Telos means reality's going somewhere. And that plot line is not just, right? That plot line is not just mechanical. That plot line is a plot line which is defined by, expressed by, articulated by first principles and first values of cosmos. And as the plot line of reality is the progressive deepening of intimacy, and intimacy is a first principle and first value of cosmos. The plot line of reality is Eros, and Eros is the movement towards ever deeper contact, the relationship intensification, the intensification of relationship, of contact, which creates greater wholeness, right? Ever more uniqueness, ever deeper is a plot line of reality. Ever greater integrity is a plot line of reality, right? Ever more transformation is a plot line of reality. Evolutionary transformation, there are plot lines to reality itself. And those plot lines themselves are the first principles and first values of reality. Does that make sense? And one of the plot lines of reality is time itself. And it's time itself is not just a mechanical structure. Time is a quality of reality. And so past and present and future are not markings of time. It's not just that we mark time, we live time. Right? Time's not a marking. Time's not spatial. Time is, if you will, a melody. Time's a melody. Right? It's a song, it's music. And a melody picks up. A melody has a crescendo, right? A melody is affected, right, by the movements and the rhythms and the spatial flows and the ratios between notes. And the prior note affects future notes, and future notes go back and reinterpret prior notes. And there's this movement. Past is not left behind. And future is not just, right? Future emerges from and is affected by, and there's some future in the symphony that calls, right, that the previous notes are reaching towards. Imagine a snowball, right, moving down a hill, right? That's a better sense. A snowball moving down a hill, or a melody, is a better sense of the quality of time. And in the quality of time, there's always the memory of the past. So we need to reintroduce, just stay close, okay? We need to reintroduce past. So it's not that Freud was wrong. Freud got something really right, and Breuer got something really right. And attachment theory is unbelievably important. And Melanie Klein did crazily important work, right? For sure. As did, Harry Stack Sullivan, and as did Donald Winnicott, and as did Mary Ainsworth, and her predecessor, of course, Bowlby, in Separation and Loss. Attachment theory is unbelievably important because it reclaims the past in the symphony. We got very stuck in a dry, desiccated, mechanical success story present, right, in which time was utterly spatialized, and we need to reclaim the thickness of the past. That was important. But the past isn't just the past is a value. The past is in a field of time, and time itself is a value of cosmos. Time is a quality. That quality doesn't disappear. Time is a value quality, right? It's not mechanical. Time is musical. Right? You enter into time. And when I enter into the past, I can access the memory of the past. And when I enter into the present, now stay with me, when I enter into the present, when I enter into the depth of the present, it's in the depth of the present that I can actually go back and access the past. So, and it's in the depth of the present that I can actually begin to hear the future. So go slow with me for a second, okay? Is that too much, everybody? Go slow. Go slow. It's deep. It's deep. So we understand the present moment as being essentially non-existent. There's just essentially past and future, which are kind of these materialistic, kind of mechanistic structures. The present is here. The future is not yet here. The present is this, moment in passing time, ephemeral, right? And the past is gone. That's exactly wrong. Time is a quality of reality. Time is an invitation, right? Time is a quality, right? There's what I might call, let's call it covenantal time. There's covenantal time. There is something which is deeper than spatial time, right? There is a sacred sense of time, right? It's what Bergson talked about when he was talking about time as duration. There's invitational time. And in this invitational time, which is a time that demands, it demands something from us, right? It's time which is quality itself, right? This time is filled in one moment with past, present, and future. And in every story, there is both the past, which I need to reclaim, but to engage, to enter, right? To enter into the value of past, into the field of past. And the way that I enter into the value, the field of value, which is the field of the past, right, is I enter into the depth of myself. Because actually the interior, now stay close with me, the interior quality that lives in the depth, right, inside of my innermost essence, my quality of being itself, my quality of being, my quality of homo imago Dei, right? My quality of participation in the field of the infinite intimate, my quality of value, of irreducible value, the irreducible configuration of Eros value that is me, when I enter into that deep depth, the only time I can enter, the only way and time and method of entering that depth is entering into the now. That's called nowing. I want to call that nowing. It's the act of nowing. I enter deeply into the now. And in the now, I find myself. And in the depth of myself, I find the now. Does everyone get that? So there's these two qualities of the sacred. There's the sacred person and the sacred time, but they bisect each other. When I enter into the depth of self, the depth of myself, the depth of self, right, is I leave my separate self behind. My separate self that seems to be defined by spatialized time. My separate self that's separate from everything, separate, monadic, divided from everything else. And so my separate self is in relationship with separate time which is divisible, which is spatialized, which is conceived as points on a line. So I step out of my separate self, which is me being a point, right? A line, right? A stick figure, a separate self among other separate selves, a point, right? In this kind of linear diagram of the world, I step out of my separate self and I step into my true self. And my true self is the eternal now. My true self is the circle. I'm in the circle, right? I enter into the circle. It's the circle in which no one's left out, in which there's no distinguished lines. We're all part of the same indivisible, seamless code of the universe. Everyone's in the circle. No one's left out of the circle. The total number of true selves are one. So by nowing, I enter into the now. I enter into the now. I enter into the depth of myself, the depth of my eternal self, and my eternal self takes me into the eternal now. Or I enter into the eternal now, and the eternal now takes me into my eternal self, my true self. So there's a virtuous circle. Does everyone get this? There's a circle between time and self. Time and self are both qualities of reality. I enter into the eternal now. That's what I do when I meditate. I enter into the eternal now. But when I enter into the eternal now, I don't find just a field of undifferentiated awareness. When I enter into the eternal now, when I enter into true self, to the depth of the seamless code of the universe, I then realize that in this depth of the seamless code of the universe, the seamless code is not just awareness, it's allurement. It's eros. It's pulsing with eros value. It's pulsing with desire. And it's not just pulsing with generic desire, it's pulsing with unique desire. So my true self then gives way, discloses as a unique vector of throbbing, pulsing, tumescent, alive, allured desire, my unique self. The unique configuration of value that is me. The unique configuration of intimacy that is me. The unique perspective that is me that emerges out of the now, out of the true self. So, you with me, everyone? Who's with me? Did I lose everybody here? And it's deep. Just stay close here. Okay, stay close here. Okay, stay close here. Okay, stay close here. You get it? That's deep. So now, when I get to my unique self, uniqueness is an organ of the future. Uniqueness invites the future. Now that I'm in the now, I'm now from the now, from my true self, I step into my unique self. But my unique self is connected to unique quality of time. So my unique self bisects with unique quality of time because time is not spatialized. Time is, as Bergson said, a duration. So when I enter into the utter depth of the now, into the utter infinite depth of the eternal now, that eternal now then gives way. I'm nowing my true self, which is the eternal now. So everyone get that? So there's this now in the self, and there's this self in the now. So the quality of self and the quality of time are interpenetrated with each other. Does that make sense? So when I enter into this eternal now, this true self then discloses as unique self, and unique self is an organ of the future. Unique self allows me to access a memory of the future. Now stay close for a second. This is critical because all the therapy in the world, and if you want to know why mental health is broken down and the recidivism rate is unimaginable, right, across platforms, despite, multiple resourcing and funding structures, right, of multiple kinds. And I've spent 25 years looking at this very carefully, both with my colleague Lori Galperin, with Dan Brown, who was a key, who worked closely with Lori, with Mark Schwartz, right? It's a critical issue. Clint Fuse did some really important work, back in the day, right? Ken and I have talked about this for a long time, but it's a critical thing to understand. And it's one of the reasons we developed this notion of unique self theory, is because you cannot heal by doing attachment work. It won't work for two reasons, right? One, because you're not just past, you're past, present, and future. There's a flow of time. You live in the duration of time, right? In the field of time, in the field of Eros time, right? There's an erotic, pulsing aliveness to time. Again, time's a melody. It's a snowball, right? And so when you enter into time, you've got to enter into time fully. And time includes the memory of the past. Yes, I need to recover the memory of the past. It's unimaginably important work. But I also need to recover the memory of the future. And if I don't recover the memory of the future, which becomes the strange attractor, which allures me, which tells me that the future needs me, if I can't access my clarified desire, and desire is always a desire for the future. Does that make sense? Desire is always desire for the future. That's the nature of desire. We don't desire the past. Desiring the past is a pathology, right? Those were the days, my friends, right? We desire the future. Desire is the quality of cosmos reaching for the memory of the future that already whispers is present in me. And it's why one great thinker, Maimonides, says that every human being is in their essence a prophet. We need to be priestesses, prophetesses, and poetesses. Right? To be a prophet means that I listen to the musings of the future. I listen to the whisperings of the future, the intimations of the future. I can feel them and hear them calling me. We can't address a meta crisis or a personal crisis without actually articulating a memory of the future. That's what a new story of value is. When we talk about a new human and a new humanity, when we talk about not just a third Big Bang, meaning we go from matter to life, the third Big Bang, the depth of the self-reflective human mind, and we say, no, we don't stop there. The human being doesn't then go on forever as Homo sapien. The human being actually in the natural movement of cosmos reaches for a new future, a new emergent. That's what emergence means. The nature of emergence means there's a call of the future. The cell, right, of the liver knows that the undifferentiated cell of the liver is now going to become a liver, right? The undifferentiated cell of the lung is now going to become a lung, right? Because there's a telos, there's a call. That telos exists, right, at the cellular level, at the metabolic level, but it also exists in a much more fundamental way, or not less fundamental way, in our own utterly individuated, irreducible uniquenesses, in which we're actually called to fulfill the imago, the image, right, of self engraved in the eternal now of the divine mind. I'm called to fulfill the image of myself engraved in the eternal now of the divine mind. Like, can you feel that? Like, oh my God, who can feel that? And if I just go back to the memory of the past, it won't work. And again, stay close. It's not going to work for two reasons. One is I can't heal the past unless I understand that the past is in the field of value. If I understand the past is in the field of value, then I actually, stay close, then I actually gain the capacity through entering into my own depth, which is infinite value, to enter time, the word time meaning invitation. I can enter time, I can enter the field of value, I can enter the melody, and by actually re-engaging the past in a new way, I actually have the capacity, and this is not available in attachment work. It's not available in attachment theory. I actually have, stay with me, this is insane. And it's beautiful, and it's the only sanity, and it's our only road towards sanity. It's our only road to healing the mental health crisis. I actually have the capacity to go back to the past, and it's actually time flows backwards and forwards, right? Time's not static. It's not spatialized. It's not points in the line. Time is a field of time, which is a field of value, which is a field of Eros value. So when I step into my own infinite value and the infinite unique value that calls me into the future, my uniqueness also is the road, the yellow brick road I trace back into the past. I can actually enter into the field of value, and I can actually go back, stay with me, I can go back to the moment in the past that hasn't disappeared, because the past is not yet gone. The past is utterly available in the present. I can actually find the past in the present. A memory is not a place. A memory is not the hard drive of my computer, right? That's exactly not what a memory is, right? A memory is not outsourced, right? Memory is actually, stay close. This is like, please, like I beg you, like this is, if you get this, it's gorgeous. Memory is not an outsourced hard drive. Memory is part of the quality of time itself. Does that make sense? So when I enter memory, I'm actually entering into the field of Eros time, and I can actually go and access directly the quality of time that spatialized linear time told me disappeared. That's circular time. Harry Chapin. All my life's, okay, I won't quit my day job. All my life's a circle. Sunrise and sundown, right? There's a circular motion to time. Like that moment, that quality of time comes round and round. The wheel of time goes round and round. So I come back, right? I step out of linear time. I don't abandon linear time. Linear time is the dignity of the story. The story is going somewhere. The story matters. Time moves right from past to present to future. There's values. There's value in living in that dignity of time. It means that my decisions matter. It means that there's a destination. It means there's a destiny. It means there's a plot line. It means my story is part of a larger story. That's all true. That's critical. That's a dimension of story. But there's a second dimension. And the second dimension is that within story, there's not only a linear dimension, there's a circular dimension. So that time comes around again. That's why we love anniversaries or birthdays, right? Because an anniversary and a birthday is an intimation of an intimacy in time when that moment comes around again. And we know that if you get an anniversary right or you get a birthday right, you can heal past and future. You can change everything. There's a power in that moment, in that quality. Does that make sense, everyone? That moment of anniversary, that's what a holy day is. A holiday is a holy day. It's a sacred day, which means something happened in time. But we understand a holiday as being a commemoration point, a commemorative moment in the line of linear time. That's exactly not what a holiday is. It's a holiday understood through the limitations of the prism of linear time. But from the perspective, the deeper perspective of circular time, I enter into time. How do I enter circular time? Through the eternal now. I enter right when that moment comes up again, that holy day, that anniversary, I enter into the now of that moment and I access that moment where our relationship was first consecrated, when we first came together, when we first met. I enter in, or I come back to a dynamic in my life, a dynamic of fuck up, a dynamic of pathology, a dynamic of pain, a dynamic of confusion, a dynamic of getting lost, or a dynamic of greatness, a dynamic of potency, a dynamic of power and unique poignancy and unique gifting. But I come back to it. I enter that moment in the past again. So let's say it's a moment of breakdown. Let's say a moment of trauma. I literally enter that moment because that trauma, that dynamic of trauma, let's say it's abandonment. Let's say the trauma is abandonment, right? It's abandonment. That abandonment's going to come up again and again. So when I enter that abandonment again, right, then I can then go back all the way back to the root abandonment, right, the root abandonment of my 4-year-old, of my 3-year-old, and I can actually go and I embrace that 3 and 4-year-old, but not as a kind of mechanistic therapeutic act operating in a flatland context of a reductive materialist world. No, I am in the field of time. I am in the field of value. Time is value. Time is quality. I'm now literally, I've entered time and time flows backwards and forwards. I'm now literally, ontologically, right? Through accessing that moment, through accessing my will, what's called my will, my ratzon, my erotic will, I enter into that currency of Eros and I come back to that exact moment in time. That's not time as spatialized, right? Linear point. That's time as duration. That's time as this quality, this flow. It's time as melody. I can actually enter into the music and then find that exact moment of melody and I can literally rewrite the story. And that's true. Now stay with me. That's true whether I was traumatized or hurt. Somebody hurt me. Somebody traumatized me. Whether I fucked up. Whether I made a mistake. I self-traumatized or I traumatized someone else, I can actually go back to that moment and I can literally relive the moment. I can relive the moment both as the one who might have been hurting or as the one who might have been hurt. But when I go and relive that moment, not as a psychological exercise, but as an actual transformation of time itself, then that time literally is reconfigured. Now, stay close with me. That is called in the lineage teshuvah. T-E-S-H-U-V-A-H. The lineage of Solomon calls that teshuvah. Now, stay with me. It's an idea that's missing in therapeutic culture, which is again, one of the multiple reasons therapeutic culture is ultimately lost in unimaginably horrific recidivism rates and why we have a mental health crisis unlike any other. Because we've lost access not just to the memory of the future, but to the memory of the past in an authentic way. Teshuvah means, so it's translated into English as penance. That's exciting. Repentance. That's not what it means. It's not this kind of obsessive, morbid kind of, penance of some kind of fundamentalist, homophobic, anti-embodiment, anti-science God. No, who happens to be ethnocentric and says everyone else but my people should be killed. It's not that kind of penance. It's not penance. Forget the word penance. That's a horrific mistranslation. Teshuvah means return. And the actual word is teshuv, return to the hay. H-E-I, hay, which in Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah, that's the H, the hay. It's return to the eternal now, to the God point that takes you beneath time, to the eternal now, right, to this timeless point that then returns you, right, that takes you from the surface of spatialized linear time into the depth of circular time, where you can go back. You literally return to Shuvah. You return to that moment. You return and you enter into that moment itself, and you literally re-edit the story. But you can't do it you got to do it by entering into your own depth of will and actually changing your own interior will, changing your relationship to the moment if you're the one who was hurting, changing your relationship to the moment if you're the one that's hurt, and you literally become the editor of your own story in the same way that a cell knows to edit its own broken genome. That is the beginning of true conscious evolution. That's the beginning of moving from Homo armor to Homo amor. It's this utterly profound understanding of temporality, of the nature of story, which is the quality of time, which allows me, I enter the eternal now. The eternal now then allows me to move either backwards to Shuvah. I return, right, to a moment of the past, but I don't from a kind of materialistic therapeutic way, right, engage in some sort of kind of theater, right, to pretend to reenact it. No, I actually enter the past. I go back to that moment in the past and I literally reauthor that moment. But to reauthor that moment takes everything. It's not a casual writing. I was writing last night at about midnight and I stopped to write a dear friend for a couple of minutes, and then I stepped back into writing. And I was exhausted by 3:34 in the morning, drenched in sweat, fevered away. And I had written another 1,000 words. I had every single word, blood on the ground. And that's what it means to be self-authoring. Self-authoring is ecstatic. It's joyful. It's to be the poet of my own life, to be the muse that hears the call of the future. And when I hear the call of the future, when I know that I'm needed, when I access through my unique self the memory of the future, then I have the dignity and the power to go back in time and recover the memory of the past. Can you begin to feel that? It's like, wow. And then I can play my instrument in the unique self symphony. Then I can hear the music again. Because the music takes place in time itself. The melody of time is filled with mystery, but it's also filled with invitation. Time invites us. Wow. Can we feel that? We're going to go deeper into this next week. We're going to talk about, precognition. We're going to talk about prophecy. We're going to talk about reincarnation. We're going to talk about death and what's beyond death. We'll go back to embryogenesis. But for now, let's just say that we don't just live in a universe of Eros. It's not just Eros. It's not just a cosmo-erotic universe. Does this make sense, my friends? It's a telerotic universe. Does that make sense? It's a telerotic universe. Right? A telerotic universe. It's a phrase that Barbara loved. But it's a telerotic universe. A universe filled with telos and eros. And the telos is the call of the future, the memory of the future, which I access through the eternal now, which I access through my unique self, which is the organ of personal prophecy. And it's only when I'm accessing the call of my future that I can actually listen into the call of our collective future. And from that place of knowing that I'm needed by the future, I can then go back to the past and heal the past. I can then go back to the past and access the memories of the past. And of course, it's not as linear as I just described, right? It's a little, right? Sometimes I go back to the past. I need to heal something in the past, but to really heal it by entering into the qualia, the quality of past, and not just doing an exercise, but genuinely being in the past through the field of value, which I enter to the eternal now, which allows me to access yesterday, because yesterday is available today. Yesterday's not gone. It's not spatialized time. It's not points in a line. Yesterday's not gone. It's not linear time. It's circular time. Then circular time allows me to go back, and here's the last piece, and then line plus circle becomes spiral. So what I really want to call this new quality of time is spiral time. It's spiral time. And as I step out of linear time, I step into circular time. Through circular time, through the circle, the true self, I enter the eternal now. The eternal now takes me into true self, and true self takes me into the eternal now. I'm now in the field of time, and now I can go backwards and forwards. Does that make sense? That's the quality of time, right? It's backwards and forwards. It flows backwards and forwards. That's why there's precognition. Precognition is the flow of the future into the now. And it's deep. It's deep. It's deep. It's so deep. It's so deep, right? It's so deep. It's so deep. Right? So spiral time. Right? It's not just, I don't leave linear time and then just circle. I enter circle time. And then by entering circle time, I pick up the plot line of the story. I don't abandon the dignity of story. I pick up the plot line of the story. I go back to a prior moment in the plot line. I'm able to actually ontologically reconfigure that moment. I can literally change what happened in the moment. I can't change its effect. So let's say I stole money from someone. I can change my own being a thief, but the money's still stolen. I have to repay it. I'm responsible for restitution. But I can go back and ontologically reconfigure time. Right? It's like, Right? So I ontologically reconfigure time, and in that, I step back into, I further the plot line of the story, right? The line plus the circle becomes a spiral. I spiral, and then I spiral forward into the future, and I access the memories of the future, and I feel the call of my future self. My future self is evolution calling to me, my evolutionary unique self calling me into, right, the memory of my future. And hope is a memory of the future. There can't be hope in a meta crisis if I can't access a memory of the future. But I can't access a memory of the future if I can't heal the trauma of the past. Both of them happen together. There's a virtuous circle between past, present, and future. I enter the past. It allows me to access the future. I enter the past to the present. The present, right, brings me back to the past where I can rewrite it, reconfigure it, reauthor it. And then opens up my capacity, right, to hear, right, the invitation, right, the demand, right, of the future, right, that needs me desperately. And this is the beginning of a new vision of the covenantal human, of the possible human, right, of Homo Armor, right, who's become, right, Homo Amor, and you've got to do that in the body. And at the Mystery School, Christina will be doing this, Christina Kincaid will be doing this with us in the body. We'll be actually doing We have to actually enter through the body and through the mind and through the meditation of the body, the heart and mind into the eternal present and scream the name of God. Right? And if we can just put, right, Krista, just for one moment, put the name of God, if you can, in the chat box. There we go. So if you see the name of God, you see the first name, the first letters, the small letters, the Yud. The Yud is the future. The Yud is the future. Right? And Christina Amelon, maybe you're going to conclude with your reading, which will take us, you'll read and then we'll just conclude there, and I'll just open up into next week and we'll pass to Krista and to David. So the first letter, and this is the name of God. So the name of God is the Yud, it's the future. The future, the Yud is always Yud, Yihiyeh, future, right? That which will be, the memory of the future. Then the next three letters, Hey Vav Hey, right? Hey Vav Hey is Hoveh, the present. So the name of God is the impossible conjugation of the future and the present. Does that make sense, my friends? The future calls to the present. The future calls to the present in a shocking way, and we need to understand what that means. And there's choice, and we can create the future. And the future's not blank, and yet it's not set. But there's a Yud, there's a voice of the future, the first letter that calls into Hoveh, that calls into the present. And Hoveh, the next three letters, the present. That's the name of God. So Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah is this Yud that calls into the Hoveh, that calls into the present. So the future lives in the eternal now. And this is what's so confused about New Age claims. My friend Eckhart, who writes The Power of the Now, or my dear friend, Eckhart I'm not friends with, I mean my friend in a general way, but my dear friend in a real way, Ram Dass, who wrote a book called Be Here Now, and we were dear friends at the end of his life, who talks about, be here now. But that was a confused now. That was a now that came from a particular moment that excluded both Eckhart and Ram Dass, 25 years earlier, excluded from the now the future and the past. That's not correct. The now is not a timeless time and a placeless place. The now is a timelessness that returns us to the storyline, that returns us to time. It's the circle. I step out of the line. I step into the eternal now. The eternal now is the circle. I enter into the depth of the now, and then the now spirals me back into the plot line. Okay, so I want to just give you an image. Christina, if you can just read that piece for us, just an image of precognition, just till we get the sense of the future calling right to the present, and all of the wonder and the tragedy and the post-tragic in it. And we'll come back to it next week, but I want to end with this mystery piece and just say a word after it. So Christina, this is a piece that Christina wrote about her brother Jay in her book about Jay, and this is a precognitive event where Jay imagines, right, his death. He was killed by riding his bike, killed by a green car, but he knew quite clearly the future called and told him that this was one possible end to his story. And he made peace with it in this deep and profound way. Christina, take us inside.
Thank you, Mark. Here we go. Mom, Jay asked. She dropped spaghetti noodles into the pot of boiling water on the stove. Jay pushed his pencil across the paper. I had a dream last night, he said. Yeah, what was it about? She asked, chopping broccoli as she nicked her finger. Ugh. Are you okay? Jay asked. Yeah, I just cut myself a little. She sucked her finger. What was your dream about? I finished setting the table and sat down in one of the 4 floral pattern vinyl chairs. Dick had taken the other table and chairs to his new place, but I didn't mind. I felt better sitting on flowers. I'm riding my bike. Jay shifted in his seat, lifting his pencil above his head, and turned to watch Mom. She dropped the broccoli into the steamer, stirred the spaghetti, and turned down the flame on the bubbling pasta sauce. Jay just watched her juggling the many cooking tasks. His eyes, soft, gazed in rapture, following her every graceful move. Then he sniffed and started again. I'm riding my bike and a green car is chasing me. Jay paused, and so did my mom, wiping her hands on her apron and surveying the state of the meal. That sounds scary, she said absent-mindedly. That's how I'm going to die, Jay finished. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, there's this voice. A precognitive event means there's some way in which the future leaks into the present, just like the past leaks into the present. We're not going to work it all out now, but for now it's sufficient to know that time is not just an invitation as it is in Hebrew. Time is a demand. It's a demand of the lover. Time is the field of Eros. It's the field of love. You know, we'll finish with this. Carlo Rovelli writes a book called The Matter of Time, like 2017, 18. The Matter of Time. He's a physicist. He studied with John Archibald Wheeler. And his basic point is, and he's doing straight physics, and his philosophy is not great. He's a kind of dogmatic materialist for no particular good reason. So he's pretty good at physics and pretty bad at philosophy, and writes lyrically and poetically, and it's a beautiful book. But basically what Rovelli says and so just be with me for a second, it's deep, and we'll come back to it next week. What Rovelli says is that in the fundamental equations of cosmos, time doesn't exist. And whatever that means, I'm not going to go into now, but I spent a lot of the last 50 hours on that. But it doesn't mean that time's not real. Time's absolutely real. But he says that time is generated by relationality. Time is generated by relationship. Relationship creates time. That what's primary in reality is relationship. Now, for Rovelli, relationship is coincidental, ultimately meaningless, right? Ultimately ephemeral. But when he's doing the physics, right, can't avoid, and he's aware kind of, at least from a humanist perspective, of the implications, but he doesn't know how to leap from his humanism. He's kind of caught in a kind of Yuval Harari modern postmodernism. So while he does great physics, he does a kind of dogmatic, scientific reading of reality as being empty of value. That's kind of a given for him. So I'm not talking about that part of Rovelli. But for those of you with kind of, just if you want the kind of larger integrity, I'm just giving you a heads up on that. But what he describes in terms of the physics is important, where he basically says, underneath time, there's something more essential. That's correct. And he's right about that. And he calls it, again, relationality of some kind, relationality, and interactionism. I've mentioned to you all before the book written out of Nassau, right, called the cosmology, about theories of cosmological value, that talks about emerging from much of the same science that Rovelli is looking at, but accessing different doors. What it calls the one principle of value we can access in cosmos is connectivity. But what we're saying is, what we understand, what the interior sciences understood, and we need to bring the interior sciences together with the classical sciences, is that field of love, that field of relationality, that field of the interaction between objects and persons, between beings, right? That relationship in which parts interact intimately. For Rovelli, that's what generates time, but that's underneath time. And at core, that's correct, meaning underneath time, stay close, is a field of value. The field of value itself is actually underneath time. Time is an emergent, it's a value of the field of value. Just like uniqueness is a value of the field of value, so is time. But the underlying quality of reality is value itself, relationality itself, right? Reality is relationships itself, which means reality is love, it's Eros. And what that means is that Eros itself has the quality to suspend time. When I love myself deeply, when I love my beloved deeply, I can go back in time because it's love itself, it's the quality of Eros love itself that brackets time, that takes me into the eternal now. That's why the lover says, right, when you really love, you say, we're going to love each other forever. Because actual love has a quality of forever, has a quality of eternity. That's what we call it, eternal love. So when I'm madly in love, when I'm in love with you, when we're in love, when we're loving outrageously, we enter into the eternal now, into the quality of forever that's beneath time. Right? I enter into that which is beneath the space-time continuum that allows me to go backwards in time and to literally reconfigure the moment. Now, Jay, Taylor's brother, he loves. He's this special, beautiful boy who loves. He's just alive with love. And the depth of his love for his mother, for his sister, for life, right, opens up to him in a way that is mystery. This whispering of a possible future. And then, in the depth of his love, what he spends the last few months of his life doing is gradually, with mad love, inviting his sister and inviting his mother into the knowing that it's good, that reality is good, and that life has continuity and duration, that time doesn't end at death, that he's in love with them and he's in love with life. Right? Time is access through love. Love suspends the normal workings of linear time and allows me to reconfigure the past and ultimately allows me to create the future. It's only mad love that allows us to enter into this time between worlds and this time between stories and create the love story, which is the new story of value. The new story of value is the love story, which is the story of Homo Amor. Krista.
We just want to take a moment to breathe that in and just say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. That was a wild, profound, beautiful journey. So privileged, right, to have this seat at the edge of evolution where the Dharma is being articulated literally in this space between us. Like, thank you, Marc, for spending 10 hours yesterday on that deep dive in prayer and study and reading and sharing it here with us today. And because we're holding this space, because we're holding this container, each and every one of us here together, the Dharma, the new story of value can clarify in such beautiful ways. So thank you, everyone. One of the things Marc spoke about today is time, past, present, future, and also separate self, true self, and unique self. So I wanted to recommend to you, if you are new to this Dharma, to read this book, Your Unique Self, which explains exactly what unique self means. Beautiful, beautiful book to read. And also, second, I want to recommend this new book. We just published it, Remembrances of the Future. Since we spoke about the future today, this is a beautiful book as well. It is just out a couple of weeks ago, so you can find that on Amazon as well. And as Eli spoke about in the beginning, in 2 weeks, we're starting a new course with Dr. Marc Gafni in collaboration with the Unique Self Institute and with Andrew Sweeney from Parallax. And we're going to do a 3-week dive into the topic of the journey from moving from pre-tragic to post-tragic. And that is actually very related to what we spoke about today, because Marc talks about how we can re-narrate and edit the story of our lives. And we do that. One of the practices that we're doing here in Cosmoerotic Humanism is writing our sacred autobiography. And this practice of writing our sacred autobiography is a big part of this 3-week journey that we're starting in 2 weeks, January 25th, because we're going to be studying the Dharma of pre-tragic, tragic, post-tragic. How do we move from that in the world collectively, but also in the stories of our personal lives? And we're going to include this time a special extra bonus week with the co-founder of the Unique Self Institute, Dr. Claire Molinar, and she's also a senior lineage holder of this Dharma of Unique Self. So we're going to go on a deep journey together, and I really, really, really hope and want everyone here to be there together, because It's one thing to articulate the Dharma, a second thing to study the Dharma and to understand it, but we have to make this real in the stories of our lives.
Yeah, and thank you so much, Krista. And the pre-tragic, tragic, and post-tragic is, I mean, it's everything. Like that frame we've been talking about for a while, but we've kind of lost access to it. It's one of the frames which is core to the new story of value. It's kind of spread out to many places. And I've come back to it now because it's one of those things, it changes everything. And the ability to see pre-tragic, tragic, and post-tragic in my personal life, in history, and we're going to look at it in 10 different areas, in time, power, right, art, sensuality, relationship, freedom, right, everything. You literally can't talk intelligently about your own life. I can't, we can't. We can't create a future. We can't create our own future without seeing pre-tragic, tragic, and post-tragic. Eli told me it was helpful for him, particularly at a particular moment in relationship, which was gorgeous, which I was really, and that's true. You literally can't really do a relationship without it, but you can't really do anything without it. You can't talk about God. It's one of those things, which is, if I can, it's a before and after experience, and we want to clarify it. Right? Wounding, pre-tragic wounding, tragic wounding, post-tragic wounding. So if you had all can, it's 3 weeks. It's actually going to be a total of 4 weeks. The second week, Claire's going to teach, but it's going to be 3 full weeks of teaching. Claire, campfires. It's very, very inexpensive. And just like, let's do this together. And then we're going to actually publish a pre-tragic, tragic, post-tragic book. And this is like a key piece of Dharma that we want to pick up. So Krista, thank you so crazy much. Yay.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mark, for speaking into that and clarifying that. And so the link is in the chat box and you can sign up now. And I just want to be very clear. There's 2 ways that you can sign up. The first way is by purchasing the course on its own, and the link is clearly on that page how to do that. But way better is to join our community, Who We Must Become. And by joining our community, you get access to all of these live courses that are happening every 2 months. And you get access to so much more. For example, a library of courses that are recorded for 10 years at the Eros Mystery School. So 5-day intensives. And you get access to all of those 10 courses. You get access to daily prayer. We're praying, we're chanting together every day at the same time with a group of us. You get access to the book clubs. So it's a beautiful community where we get to study, practice, and fall madly in love with each other. So sign up for Who We Must Become, and thank you for doing that, because that is the way that you are also supporting making this revolution happen, because we have so many more books that we want to publish and put out into the world so that this new story of value becomes available for everyone. So thank you for participating and for joining.